its volcanoes. It was surely in the old creed of alchemists that metals were endowed with sense and feeling, and possessed of either masculine or feminine qualities. Then why not the man or the woman with the sense or the trait of the metal? Now, Avis was a magnet. Coy's metallic theory had by this time rather run away with her, but of so much she was sure. When Avis was a baby, Mother Earth yielded pure and perfect magnet up into her composition. Shrewd nature, never to be cheated out of her control over her children, had held back her gold, her gems, her silver, and her fine dumb pearl, and wrought into Avis just the one thing more precious than them all. People, to be sure, were artificially magnetized to a certain extent. Barbara Allen, for instance, turning the exact intellectual pose of her head, there was but one intellectual pose to Barbara's head, towards Philip Ostrander, while he read his paper on Spencerian meters, was a species of electromagnet. But Avis was, without alloy, lodestone. In Avis there existed that attribute, no, that quality. Which was it? Coy remembered hearing one of the professors say at a supper that there was a difference between these two things, but she did not remember which was which. She seldom did. At all events, Avis had that one particular coloring about her, Coy decided to call it coloring, which is in a woman powerful above all beauty, wit, or genius, that subtle thing which we name charm. Now it was true and tender in Coy to sit thinking this about Avis. That was a wise word which said that, when we have ceased to enjoy the superiority of another, we have ceased to love him. Hence it may be the self-defensive strategy of affection that we feel our friend's advantage long before we allow ourselves to perceive it. Nay, in proportion to the depth of our feeling under it, are we not apt to have a frostbite of the intellect, which makes its distinct acknowledgment a matter of hard thawing? And Coy was not by any means a girl of liquid moods. She sometimes felt it proper to judge Avis very severely, else what was the use in having grown up with her? For instance, she had reproved her for staying so much by herself since she had come home. Barbara now thought that affectation, it was plain to see, and affectation it would have been in Barbara, though of course she was too well bred to say so. Coy knew better than that. It was only morbidness. Coy had the glibness of most unaccentuated natures in the use of this convenient word, which is without a rival in its adaptability to cover all forms of character differing from one's own. There had been a ripple of surprise when Avis came into the club that night. The club met at Chatty Hogarth's. Chatty was the president's daughter and an invalid. Avis did not like to refuse poor Chatty. It was the first time that Miss Dobell had appeared in Harmouth society since her return from Florence. At this rate, it was plain that Miss Cora Bishop's Spencerian culture would be very deficient. Coy, with a pretty change of mental attitude, which had a pretty bodily expression down to the very tips of her fingers, tightening like growing shells about the covers of her book, brought her intellect to bear severely upon the business of the evening. But fly, ah, fly far hence away, for fear lest to you hap that happened to me here. A low and singularly musical voice was pronouncing these words as Coy looked up. Not the catarrhal theologue, surely. He had finished his contribution to the evening's entertainment, thank the muses, and Mr. Ostrander was reading. Philip Ostrander, the new tutor. There was always a new tutor to be considered in Harmouth University. He had not always, however, a musical voice. And to this wretched lady, my dear love, oh, too dear love, love bought with death too dear. Clearly Mr. Ostrander was an effective reader, a cultivated reader, Coy said. Miss Dobell, from her corner opposite the gentleman, sitting a little in the shadow, and giving equable and earnest attention to the performance of each member of the poetry club in turn, said only, an effective reader, but hesitated at the word, and listened thoughtfully. With sudden fear her pitcher down she threw, and fled away, sang on the reader. Full fast she fled, ne ever looked behind, as if her life upon the wager lay. Musical was the word, assuredly. Mr. Ostrander's voice held rather melody than harmony, but music beyond a question. There was a modesty and simplicity about its accent not common to young men in those stages of growth in which Harmouth knew them, perhaps a little uncommon in any young man. It suffused a penetrative sense of pleasure.